Good afternoon and welcome to another ironic introduction to another video. I want to do this without making it sound like too much complaining, even though this is a pretty major complaint on my part. I was unable to complete day 2, mostly because I'm not a good enough player. I have the roster for it, albeit max rank 4-star Omega Red is the definition of that roster, but it made me reevaluate my champion pool and made me think about, okay, well, who should I consider ranking up next? And that's when I realized that there is a major problem with the way this event is set up and the way they've set up the requirements. I'm actually on the side where I think gates have a lot of potential. I think that gates, when done properly, can force diversity, it can force player thought and thinking, and can bring a lot of benefit to the game if done properly. And from a overview perspective or a bird's eye perspective, this event seems very balanced, right? You think you have 25% of the champion pool on the first day, 25 on the second day, third day, fourth day, and then the fifth day is open, right? Because, they do half the classes heroes and then half the classes villains. And from a logical standpoint, that's, 25% of the pool. But in reality, using AntMy here as my list here, because this is a good filtering option, if I do day 1 here, this is your hero roster. Day 1, I'm sure a lot of people had no problems with. There are so many just absolutely stellar champions here. Day 1 is really good for most players. And that looks great. And that feels good, and when you cover it from that perspective, event looks fine. Frustrating maybe that you're on a limited roster, you can't bring the synergies you want to, but still, I'm sure people managed. And then you hit day 2, and this is your pool. Day 1, this is your pool. Day 2, you're rocking at almost a third of the pool, and this is where it gets frustrating, because for people like me, not everybody's running suicides. So when you're not running suicides, you have access to this whole pool if you have them. And you're looking at it, it's like, who do you actually want to rank up in order to have someone to run the second event? And in what situations do you find yourself with when like someone might not be good? Like Carnage isn't going to be good because there's 2 tech champions right away. And you can make the argument just get good, right? But I think that there's also the option of like making your roster better, and this is just a fundamental flaw. Like the champion pools from day 1 to day 2 are just so miserably distant. And I want to point out something here is that these are your mercenaries, and here are your no tags. These are 4 villains, like absolutely 4 villains, and they're not villain tagged, so that means you can't bring them. There are going to be so many people with Corvus Glaive, Cull Obsidian, Proxima Midnight wondering why they can't bring these champions. I actually was wondering, I was like, I have a 4-star Cull Obsidian, and he wasn't showing up, and that's when I realized it's because he doesn't have a villain tag. He's part of Thanos' army. That's the only tag he has. So looking at that, it's like, okay, fine. Day 2's not that great. Let's see what day 3 looks like. Day 3, this is fine. Still significantly less than day 1, but this is still a reasonable roster. You have a lot of decent options here. You have some stellar ones, but at the very least, some decent ones here, and it's a good time. I'm sure people will manage. Day 4, right back to the same problem, right? When you're not even populating 2 lines here is when you're looking at a very limited roster. And people start to struggle. People start to get frustrated with, saying they probably won't even run it. I'm in that boat. I probably won't even try, because that's just how frustrating it is to be at such a limited roster. Okay, I lied. I'm gonna try, but I'm stubborn. So that said, I want to point out something, and that is that this is your total pool of villains, just villains period, no class mark, right? And this is day 1 of heroes. There are more day 1 heroes than there are villains period in the game. So kabam, if you're going to do this again, I think that there is potential here, right? Like there's a lot of options. So I would do day 1 set up the same way you have heroes. That's fine. People can handle that. And even day 3 with the other half of the heroes, totally fine. But instead of segmenting the villains into 2 different categories, because they have such a smaller pool, just have all the villains as one. Just day 1, half the heroes. Day 2, all the villains. Day 3, half the heroes. And then if people ask, then you can explain, well, it's because of the limited pools. Villains need more options, and so we open it up to all classes to allow it. And then day 4, you could do like 2015, 2016 champions, right? And day 5, you could do like 2017 to 2019 champions, right? Or maybe even like alternate here, because maybe you don't want to have like the 2019 champions there, because there's gonna be a lot of people who will complain about them not being in the basic pool. So you could do something like 2016 2018 champions, or 2018 2019 champions, and this roster looks reasonable. And then you could say something like 2015 2017 champions, and this roster looks reasonable. That said, this pointing this out, this is my biggest complaint. This is a fundamental flaw in this month's event. And I think that if there are going to be champion requirements in the future similar to this, I think that a kind of a filter system like this needs to be used to just kind of do like a quick check and make sure that the pools are comparable, or at least large enough each independently that it doesn't matter that they're not comparable. I don't think there's anything malicious here. I think that on paper, it sounds really good. It sounds like 25% of the champions. But just because the way champions are released and the hype of heroes being more popular than villains, generally speaking, I think that there needs to be some deeper looking. Part of that might be personnel, whatever the reasons are. Next time around, I would like there to have been a lesson from this event, Kabam. And then next time, we won't run into this problem. Or maybe you change your mind, at least part way through this event, and open it up to like all villains and all heroes, and you just scrap the whole half class thing. That said, that's my 2 cents on this. Probably longer than I needed. Hopefully a little less complainy, because the first time I made this video, it was mostly just me venting, and that's not productive. That said, I hope that the daily clears go better for you than they do for me, because I've been struggling on the second day. I'm not gonna get it. That's just an unfortunate reality. That said, I will talk to you all later.